Howdy, folks, and welcome back to yet another film review. Today, we'll be no-clipping out of reality and exploring the world that lies beside us. Or below us. Above? Anyways, I'm trying to set up that we'll be going to the Backrooms, which is also the title of this film. Anyways, let's learn a bit about the background, shall we? To start, The Backrooms is a 2026 science fiction psychological horror film. It is based on the internet web series by a young creator named Kane Parsons, who also happened to direct this film. He is only 20 years old. The web series itself is based off of a popular creepypasta that was posted to 4chan several years ago. So we got a movie that's a continuation of a web series that's based on a creepypasta, created and directed by a young person who couldn't even drink at the time that this film was being made. Suffice it to say, this is definitely a unique sort of background for this movie. What's more interesting is that the film distribution company A24 approached Kane Parsons so that he could direct this film. It isn't every day that you see a film company approach someone so unknown to the masses of Hollywood. Ordinarily, I feel like a film studio would just make their own version with some sort of boomer who knows nothing about the creepypasta and have them half-ass a cheaply made film, or an episode in a TV series. Yeah, you know who you are. Anyways, continuing on, this movie was written by Will Sudick, who has a very short Wikipedia page. But this seems to be his only motion picture credit. Everything else is just writing for TV shows such as Ash vs. Evil Dead and Westworld. The production companies behind this film were North Road Films, 21 Laps Entertainment, Atomic Monster, Phobos, and Oddfellows Entertainment. Wowza, that's a lot of companies. The 110-minute long film released May 29th, 2026 in the United States. On an estimated budget of around $10 million, it has so far amassed a whopping $262.6 million as of making this video. Suffice it to say, horror is probably the most profitable genre in Hollywood compared to its budget. And I wouldn't have it any other way. With all that said, what's this film all about? Well, according to IMDb, the plot is as follows. After a therapist's patient disappears into a dimension beyond reality, she must venture into the unknown to save him. And to be honest, that's like the second half of this film. Like, sure, it's where all the conflict comes in, but there's a bit more to it than that. My summary would be that a depressed man who owns a failing furniture store one day discovers a mysterious doorway in the basement. He ventures into it and discovers a strange world that looks much like an office space, but off. As he explores this strange realm, he soon discovers that he is not alone. Overall, my thoughts on the story are positive. I think the main driving force is not the Backrooms itself, although I feel like that is also a character in its own right. No, the driving force is the protagonist Clark and his therapist Mary. Throughout the film, you see both of them live these sort of unfulfilling lives. Clark wanted to be an architect, but instead he's now divorced and running a furniture store. Mary herself is a therapist, but she has demons from her past that she can't seem to move on from. Honestly, I'm not sure how much more I should talk about the story. I feel like if I get into the Backrooms itself, I'll give away a lot of stuff. I'll just say that for the most part it was enjoyable, although I felt like at times the rules of the Backrooms and what lies within didn't seem to line up right. There's also the fact that the passage of time in this film isn't directly addressed. We know it takes place in the 1990s. That isn't the problem. There seems to be a bit of a time skip in this film, and it isn't directly addressed how long it is. It could have been a few days, weeks, or even months. I'm still not sure. There'll probably be an explanation in like a director's commentary track for the inconsistencies and time skip. But I don't know, I prefer all my lore to be easily accessible in the film itself. Again, these aren't big complaints or anything, but just something that I personally noticed and wanted to address. Moving on, I already talked about the two main characters a little bit. Clark, who is played by a man whose name I cannot pronounce. I mean, I could try, but I don't want to butcher it, especially since I really liked his performance as Clark. I think Clark is a very interesting character. It isn't every day that a lead in a film has so many character flaws. Usually I'd imagine a Hollywood exec casting the most handsome Tom Holland lookalike or something for this role. Instead, they chose someone who just looks like an average 48-year-old man. Note, I'm not digging on the guy, I just think he looks average in this film. Which is a good thing. He doesn't stand out. He fits in with anyone else that appears in this film. Because it's about average, everyday people being thrown into an extraordinary situation. Again, I can't say much about Clark, but he goes through an interesting arc in this film that I haven't seen many other films pull off before. I'm curious to see what you all think. And as for Mary, well, I can't pronounce her actor's name too well either. Look, I'm just a simple man with a mush mouth. It's for your benefit and theirs that I don't try to pronounce these names. Anyways, the actress who plays Mary does a great job as well. She's the secondary protagonist of this film. I find her backstory to be relatable as someone who has a relative that also deals with mental illness. I think both Mary and Clark provide different spectrums of the setting that allow for different interpretations on just what the Backrooms really means. There are a few other characters in this film as well, but they aren't really all that prominent to talk about here, and one is sort of a spoiler. I'll just give out the usual blanket statement and say that everyone here did a really good job, given how outrageous the premise of this film is when you look at it. Basically, actors acting well. You always love to see it. Next, I just want to touch on how scary this film is. There are a couple of jump scares in this film, and I'll be honest, the film was good enough at building suspense and tension that a few actually got to me. There are, as expected, a few creepy critters in this film. I won't talk too much about them, but they are disturbing. I've been afraid to look at the corners of my room at night because I'm afraid one will accidentally pop up or something. There is a bit of blood and some gore in this film, so if you don't like that sort of thing, you may not want to watch this movie. But hey, it's R-rated. What did you expect? Up next, the effects. For a $10 million film, the effects were good, I think. I believe the creatures themselves are a mix of practical and CGI, and yeah, they work surprisingly well. Helps that they are obscured for most of the film, as darkness helps hide the imperfections of CGI. But I also feel like for this film, those imperfections would honestly add more to the terror. Now, the big thing I really loved in this film were the sets. Kane apparently created a huge layout of the Backrooms set in Blender, and then they got to work building an actual full-size set of it. How big was it? Try 30,000 square feet built across 4 sound stages. Over 37,000 square feet of wallpaper and 29,000 square feet of carpeting were used for the sets as well. According to Wikipedia, people allegedly got lost on the set. $10 million well spent, I say. Finally, we have the music. For this film, the score was composed by Ido van Bremen and Kane Parsons himself. And it is done very well. Man, I've been saying very well a lot in this review, huh? It's a strange sounding, otherworldly soundtrack that just fits with the visuals on screen. I can't even really begin to describe it. It's haunting and disturbing, but you just want to keep listening to it. It's truly unique, and I appreciate the restraint it took to not just make it a generic horror movie soundtrack. So, overall, would I recommend The Backrooms? And my answer would be yes, but with some caveats. The Backrooms is a very experimental, weird sort of film that expects you to pay attention to its characters. This isn't content that exists to turn on the background so you can just look at your phone or tablet or whatever it is the folks do in theaters these days. If you allow yourself, you can get immersed into a strange, otherworldly realm that's familiar yet isn't. It's strange and unnerving, and honestly at times, I felt like it didn't really need the monsters. I thought that this place existing on its own was terrifying enough. Now, do note that for the folks who are big fans of the creepypasta and the different floors and monsters that's in it, this film has none of that. There is no pee-pee poo-poo man on floor 67 who shows up and vaporizes your asshole if you look at him through the corner of your eye. This is a film that's primarily about people and the inherent flaws that they have and struggle to overcome. This is a psychological horror film primarily that just so happens to have some spooky beings and a giant office complex in it. So, please be patient with the film as it builds up the tension. Become immersed in the story it's trying to tell, and I'm sure you'll leave being pleasantly bewildered at whatever it was that you just watched. It's rare to have a film made by someone this young that's also directing a film this ambitious. For a first foray into Hollywood, I think Kane Parsons and everyone else who worked on this film and acted in it did a great job. Sure, the story itself has some patches that could have maybe used a bit more ironing out, but I personally still had a good time. So yeah, watch it if you want, because it'll probably be a while before we see something this unique again in theaters. Unless those sequel rumors are true, in which case, sure, that would be neat, but sometimes things should just stand on their own, you know?